All right, everybody, happy Thursday. Welcome to Four Down Territory, where we talk Carolina Panthers for 25 to 30 minutes for you right here on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Feel free to comment as we go along here. We'll get into the show structure in just a second, but I'm going to welcome some great guests. We've got Antoine Staley, pro and college football writer from Athlon Sports. Brendan Marks, who we did have to have identification from in order to be on the show this late, but Brendan's been doing a great job as the Charlotte Observer's beat reporter this season, has guided the team just like Kyle Allen to a 4-3 record, and Nick Wilson, who I believe is in the midst of eating his children's Halloween candy from tonight's haul. So Nick, what do you got?
That's already been done.
Yeah,
that's already been done.
That's too bad.
We've already made it through the Reese's stack, and now we're on to Kit Kat, and God willing, and no diabetic coma allowed. Snickers by the end of the night.
All right. Hey, any Reese's peanut butter cups? I mean, you got to give me something better. What do we got here?
You know that's the first thing I eat.
Yeah, that's top of the list.
Yeah.
Well,
this isn't like dinner where you eat like salad first and then you get your steak. Halloween candy, you go right for the gold because you know it's not going to last.
All right. So let's get to the show. Four Down Territory. And again, if you're at home watching, comment on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, ask us questions, make fun of us, tell us how wrong we are. It's all in play. So this is how it works. First Down is a fill-in-the-blank segment. Each segment has its own kind of style. We'll start with fill-in-the-blank. And we're going to start with Antoine. Antoine, fill-in-the-blank. The Panthers losing by 38 to the 49ers was blank.
Demoralizing, shocking. I thought the 49ers were the better team coming in just because I thought their defensive front would be able to give the Panthers some problems on their offensive line. But, yeah, I did not see them putting up a 50 burger on them. I just completely shocked there, especially considering how well the Panthers have been playing. And also coming off a bye week. You have 2 weeks to prepare. Yeah, you're going up against a great team. And just to come out with that kind of effort, I just thought that was very lackluster and shocking at the same time.
All right, Brendan, you were there in Santa Clara to witness the demoralizing victory for the 49ers by 38 points. How would you characterize it? Fill in the blank. Loss of the 49ers was blank.
Unfortunately, I was there. The loss of the 49ers was revealing. I think over the past month, we sort of adopted these rose-colored glasses as it pertained to the Panthers, and we started to think, hey, is this team as good as the 6-2 start from last year? Is this a team that's going to challenge for a Super Bowl? Is this a team that's going to keep cruising without Cam Newton? And I think we all just got a little caught up in the past month. And I think that loss of the 49ers really exposed some serious flaws with this team. The run defense has struggled all season, and this was a perfect reminder of just how porous it really is. We saw Kyle Allen's warts in full, and that's going to continue to be an issue as long as Cam Newton's out. So this is a team that has a lot of potential, but also a team that still has a lot of things it's working through. And maybe I like Antoine, was surprised that they got a 50 burger put on them, but at the same time, I think it might have been a healthy dash of reality.
All right, Nick Wilson, fill in the blank. Panthers losing by 38 to the San Francisco 49ers was blank.
I'm not going to get any sort of literary awards for this.
Brendan
I'm going to use you never know. Painful. It was painful. They got beat in every phase of the game. It's one thing to lose to a good team. It's one thing to lose to an undefeated team. It's one thing to even get beat by a touchdown or two. It's another thing to get bleep housed by
Thank
whatever
you for
happened
censoring.
there. You are very welcome. You didn't say no censoring yourselves. But no, I mean, it was just an absolute loss in every phase of the game. And honestly, the other thing I would say, it was a little bit of necessary truth because we're going to find out who the heck the Carolina Panthers are this Sunday when they go up against Tennessee. It happens again, then we got problems. I have a feeling they'll do the opposite.
All right, I'm going to go informative. It informed the Panthers that they are not among the top teams in the NFC. They may not even be in that second tier right now. It informed them that there is a whole lot to work on. I've been informed by my buddy Darren on Twitter that I look a little overdressed, maybe loosen the tie a little bit, and I'm a little confused. Am I the only one that wore makeup to this party? Is that just me?
I think so, yes.
I think that says more
it seems
about
to be a
you
problem
than it
for
says
me.
about the three of us.
It happens to me all the time.
I'll just say, guys, I'd be very worried if we're starting to loosen things. I got flannel on.
Yeah,
the chest hair
no.
comes out, and this is not going to be the kind of story,
That's your top layer. Let's keep it.
No one wants that.
Next fill in the blank. Cam Newton will make his return versus the blank. Let's go in reverse. Nick.
He's going to make it against the Atlanta Falcons. You can't have him in the tundra. If it's 12 degrees out there, you can't send a guy who just had Liz Frank into those conditions and everything that entails. I think the Falcons are a great soft launch. They're a bad team. They don't get after the quarterback very well. It's another home game, so that makes a lot of sense. So I think it's the Falcons in 2 weeks.
All right, let's go back to Brendan.
Cam Newton will next be seen next season.
Ooh.
Ooh.
What are you, the beat reporter? What do you know?
I don't know for certain that that's what's going to happen, and that is a bit of a hot take for me. But I think that there's very reasonably a situation where Cam Newton doesn't play again for the Panthers this season. And I think you look at, as Nick said, this game against the Tennessee Titans is incredibly crucial. If the Panthers lose this game and go back to 4-4, I don't think many of us are giving them a chance against the Packers. At that point, they would drop to 4-5, and then from there they have 2 games remaining against the Saints later this year. I mean, if they lose this game against Tennessee, I think there's a very precipitous slope that the team starts to go down. And in that situation, if I am both the team and if I'm Cam, I'm not sure that it makes sense for him to take the field again. If there's not a playoff berth to be won, does it make sense to put him out there, jeopardize re-injury, or are you better off just having him take the season off? I don't know. I think it's a question worth asking at the very least.
The only thing I would say about that real quick here is if they fall out of playoff contention, I think it quickly becomes very necessary to turn this into observation time. And if you could figure out what you have in Cam, one way or another, good or bad, if you can see a glimmer of what he is before the end of the season, or if maybe he can't stay healthy, that makes it you are allowed to move up a decision on Cam to this offseason, which is probably necessary. You don't want to go into next year still not being able to say yay or nay on Cam.
All right, Antoine, I'll get to you, and then I got to go back to Brendan with one more thing. But, Antoine, Cam Newton will make his return versus the blank.
I like the Falcons too as well. I agree with Nick. You need to see what Cam Newton is this year because it's a great quarterback class coming out next year, and you can't not see him perform at some point this year simply because of everything that's happened, especially if he's healthy. Now, if he's not healthy, then that's a different story. But yeah, I think you definitely need to see what you have in Cam Newton because this team that has a lot of decisions to make in the offseason, even if they're 4-5 in a few weeks against the Atlanta Falcons. So, yeah, I definitely think he will play at some point this year, probably against Atlanta. It doesn't make sense to play him against Green Bay. They're calling for snow against Green Bay. So you definitely don't want him out there, especially on a foot injury when something freakishly may happen. So, yeah, I think that makes more sense to play him against a team that's floundering as opposed to a team that's one of the better teams in the NFC and the Packers.
All right, Brendan, let me fan the flames of your supposed hot take here. You said Cam Newton will be back on the field next year with who?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a very valid question. Sort of going back to Nick's point is you ideally, if you're the Panthers, you want to go into this offseason and especially going into next season with some idea of if Cam is the guy that you can keep around for a few years. As we all know, if the Panthers move on from Cam this offseason, $2 million in dead space is nothing. And $19 million they can save, that's $19 million that can go to Christian McCaffrey, can go to James Bradbury, can go to Shaq Thompson. That's a lot of money to be spread around. I just think that, realistically, are we probably going to see Cam again this year? Yes. I like the idea of the Falcons game as well. I'm not sure if he's even that close yet. But if Cam does not end up playing this year and the Panthers look at the state of their roster and they say, hey, we have a ton of older veterans, we have a ton of older guys, I don't think it's completely out of the question that they go into next season with Cam still not having the future sort of sewed, and next season is a make or break it year for Cam in Carolina.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground here on first down. Let's get to one more. You feel blank about the Panthers' chances against the Titans. I'll start. I feel spooked after what I saw against San Francisco. It's an aggressive, physical team coming into town, a coach that likes to muck it up. You never know what you're going to get with the Titans. You might get a tough, dirty game. And Panthers didn't look awfully good against San Francisco last week. I know it's a much different scenario, but they're going to have to prove that they can get over that in the first couple of drives and defensive stand. So we'll start with Antoine with this one. You feel blank about the Panthers' chances against Tennessee?
I feel cautiously optimistic. The reason I say cautiously is because you got the Titans. They come in, they're a physical team, as you alluded to. They like to run the football. They're good under trenches. They have a really good defense with Mike Vrabel. And the Panthers seemingly, really, especially last week, they had a tough time stopping Tevin Coleman. And I'm sure the Titans are going to saw that, and they're going to implement some of that in their game plan. So, and, you do have Ryan Tannehill, who's, well, I'm familiar with covering the Dolphins for years. But you got him. He's playing well. They have a lot of confidence in him. They seem like the team is starting to rally around Tannehill and play better. So I think it's going to be one of those close games, but I definitely think it's one that the Panthers should win. They have to win, obviously, too, as well, especially playing in the NFC, which is a tough conference right now. If you lose that, you go 4-4 in the conference. I definitely think it's going to be an uphill battle for them to make the playoffs.
All right, Nick Wilson, what do you got? The Panthers, you feel what about the Panthers beating the Titans?
I was so excited for that. I almost jumped on you there. Trepidatious. I feel trepidatious about this game. I want to know who the real Panthers are. I feel like this season's been a season where every week, every couple weeks, we're asking ourselves, who's the real Carolina Panthers? They go out against Tennessee and get a nice win. We can get back to feeling good about this team. You lose to Tennessee under any circumstance. It's a team that rightfully you probably should beat. Then I think there's the other conversations and all that. Some of the darkness that we saw once they started 0-2 can start to creep back in, and I don't think anybody wants to be there.
Brendan, fill in this last blank, close out first down. You feel blank about the Panthers' chances against the Titans?
I am not going to win a literary award for this one either, but I'm just going to go with excited. I mean, I think this is going to be a really interesting football game. I think that the way the Panthers and the Titans match up, they both have very interesting, competitive, hyper-aggressive defenses. They both have two tremendous running backs. They both have quarterbacks with question marks. I think there's a lot of similarities between these two teams, and we have a column up right now on the Observer website that basically says the same thing. I think
we have to bleep that.
Yeah.
Sorry. Cheap plug.
Yeah, cheap plug. But seriously, I think there's a lot of similarities between these two teams, and similarly to what both Nick and Antoine said, this is a great proving statement, sort of test game for the Panthers. They all said that the San Francisco game was a test game, but I look at this one more as that game was a reach. That game was a chance to prove you belong in the upper echelon of NFL teams. The Panthers clearly proved they're not there. But to prove that they should remain competitive and in the playoff mix, that is absolutely the case. And if they beat the Titans, they're right there. If they lose to them, it's a completely different story. But I'm excited just to see how these two very similar teams match up.
All right, let's get to second down. And folks at home, we see you on Facebook. Happy Halloween, Kiki. Thanks for chiming in. If you have any Panthers, Titans questions, comments, want to rip us, whatever, hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube as we move to second down, which is a buy or sell segment. Pretty simple. I don't think I have to explain it to any of you guys. But let's start it out. We'll start with Nick Wilson. Buy or sell, Nick? Carolina should have made a move at the trade deadline.
I'll say sell. I don't think it was a great market. If you saw, some of the teams that were out there trying to sell were stupid teams like Cincinnati and Washington, teams that have no business.
They are stupid teams.
Just
Jets,
poorly run. Oh, I didn't even want to mention them. Poor New York fans.
Be still my heart.
but no, one, I think the upper echelon talent was tied up with bad franchises. And then there didn't seem to be a secondary market. And really, I think if you look at this Carolina Panthers team, I think that's what they needed. They needed a third receiver, a fourth receiver. They needed, maybe another swing tackle just because of health issues. I don't think they needed frontline talent. I don't think they needed to give up major draft collateral. And there didn't seem to be, beyond those upper echelon players, any secondary market that they could have benefited from jumping into those waters.
Antoine, buy or sell? Panthers should have made a move.
I'm selling because even though there was some talk about getting somebody like Emmanuel Sanders or another wide receiver, I don't see a move that they would have made that would have put this team over the top. I think they still would have been in the same position that they thought they're in right now. A team that's kind of maybe on the cusp of making the playoffs, but we don't necessarily know for sure as of yet. So yeah, I definitely think that I think they did the right thing there by not giving up future draft picks when you don't necessarily know about your team. You're still trying to find out what the Panthers are, and then you don't know necessarily when Cam Newton is coming back there as well. So it's still a lot of questions with the team. You don't want to give up on the future just to try to get into the playoffs for now. I think they did the right thing by not making any trades.
And that receiver market
ahead,
was insane. That receiver market, a third and a fourth for Emmanuel Sanders, a late second for Mohamed Sanu. Good players, not worth the draft collateral tossed around there. Sorry about that.
You could have Josh Gordon for $1 million if you're the right waiver claim, Brendan. Is this Marty's plan?
I'm going sell too. I don't think that there was any reason for the Panthers to give up draft capital. I sort of look at it I agree with both Antoine and Nick that, the market just wasn't there and you're going to end up overpaying inherently just for whatever the needs would have been, whatever everybody thinks the needs were. I agree. I mean, a later, a depth receiver, a depth tackle, a depth defensive back, those are sort of the areas that I looked at. But also, I don't think that people are looking at Marty Herney's history as a drafter when they're considering this. Every draft pick that you give up is missing out on a potential Dennis Daly or missing out on a potential Jermaine Carter, even some of those late round picks. And if you give up something even better, I mean, you look, the Panthers consistently in the first 2 rounds, the last 2 years, they're getting starting caliber players. So when you're giving up assets, you're also costing yourself cheap young talent. Like Antoine said, there is no one move that would have gotten this team over the top. I think it was really smart of them to stay pat, and that's why they usually end up doing the very same thing.
All right, our next buy or sell topic. Steve Smith on WFNZ's airwaves this week. He called out these young receivers, DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, and said, hey, maybe the Panthers need to draft another receiver in next year's first round that'll put forth some effort. Now, DJ Moore commented to The Athletic that he just thought Smith was trying to light a fire under those two guys. Brendan, we'll start with you. DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel, buy or sell, need to put forth better effort.
I'm going to sell on the idea that the Panthers need to draft another receiver in the first round, but I will buy on the idea that the Panthers receivers may need to do a little bit more. And I think one of the main reasons that Steve Smith may have made those comments, and again, cheap plug WFNZ, let's go. I think one of the reasons that he said that is because you look at the situation with DJ chasing down the Nick Bosa interception. I think that's a reason to have a lot of criticism. But, I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world if we saw, guys like Curtis. I know those 2 deep balls to him late in the San Francisco game, deep down the field, those weren't necessarily the most accurate balls. But, I mean, he's slowing up on his route 7, 8, 10 yards before he gets there. So, I don't think that following those out would have necessarily yielded anything. I also don't think it's a great look that they're not going out and chasing them to the full extent.
Back down to Nick Wilson, buy or sell on this one. DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, more effort.
I need a mountain of evidence when we start talking about guys' efforts. Smitty can make that call. I don't feel comfortable making that call. Just being in the situation that I'm in. What I will say is that I think that the Carolina Panthers receivers have a problem of hype right now, in that they were hyped up over the offseason, some of it by us, even at our station, to be, this great combo, and they simply have failed to be Julio Jones and A.J. Green and, all the great wide receivers. DJ Moore's on pace for almost 1,100 yards. Curtis Samuel's on pace between 700 to 800 yards. If you just toss those numbers out in a vacuum in the preseason and said, is this a successful season? Is this a great step for these 2 young receivers? You would say yes. We act as if guys just come in day one and are Antonio Brown and Emmanuel Sanders and Julio Jones. It doesn't always work that way. I think we all need to have a little bit better perspective on DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel. But that being said, again, there's one guy in Carolina who can call out effort in wide receiver. That's Steve Smith. So I can't argue with Smitty on that.
Yeah, and talking about that hype, Nick, it's almost like there's nothing to talk about around here in July. It's about what might happen. Antoine, what are you doing with this one, buying or selling?
I'm selling. You got to get those guys the time to develop. Yeah, they need to play better. I'm sure they know that. But at the same time, they're young guys. We talk about DJ Moore, very young, talented guy, still trying to find his way. I mean, he's not Steve Smith. If you held him to the Steve Smith standard, then yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, you're gonna want him to play a lot better. But they're not Steve Smith. They're their own guys. As Nick said, I think DJ Moore is having a solid season. He's not first number one type receiver season, but I think it's a really good season for DJ Moore and the steps that he's taken. And I think Curtis Samuel's made a lot of good plays this year. Yeah, I'm not feeling comfortable as well talking about failures effort because I feel like they're doing a good job. I don't feel like they're the reason they lost that game. I feel like it was a lot of different reasons why they lost to San Francisco last week, and the receivers were just a small part of that.
All right, fellas, let's close down second down with this buy or sell. Antoine, buy or sell the Panthers as a playoff team?
I'm selling. I think the NFC is too strong right now. You look at you got Seattle, you got 49ers. Obviously, they're undefeated. You got Seattle behind them. The Rams still might be there. You look at the NFC North with the Packers and Vikings. The Eagles could still come on and possibly make the playoffs or win that division. The Cowboys. And obviously, you got the Saints in the NFC South there. I think they're going to win the division. So I think ultimately, especially when you look at the Panthers' schedule, they still got a lot of tough teams left. They got New Orleans twice. They got Indianapolis on the road. Also, Green Bay coming up there as well. I definitely think they may fall short. 10-6 might not even get you in the playoffs. And I don't know if the Panthers can win 11 games this year. So I'm going to sell. All
right, Nick, am I booking a trip in early January for elsewhere or a playoff game? Buy or sell, playoff team?
So I do think that the Panthers are a playoff caliber team. But I think the circumstances are going against them. It's not even about the San Francisco loss. Those two losses to start the season where you lost at home and you lost to the Rams who are going to be in the thick of it. You lost to the Buccaneers, who are nobody, but again, that was a game where everything was going your way. Now you're 4-3, and it feels like you were behind the eight ball trying to move up in the NFC as everyone goes around there. So I do think that this is a playoff caliber team, but I think the circumstances of starting the season 0-2 with Cam's injury, I think that's going to end up you could end up missing the playoffs at 11-5, 10-6 by only a game. And I think it's going to come down to those first two games. And I think that's going to open up a whole can of worms on how that other stuff was handled to start the season.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
I think any other year, I feel like they'd be in the playoffs. But it's just one of those particular years where it's just so strong and so deep.
And with a coach that you thought would probably need to make the playoffs this year to keep his job, how does David Tepper evaluate that? That'll be interesting. Brendan, buy or sell, playoff team, Panthers?
I sort of fall in line with my other two panelists. I would go with sell. But, the thing that is interesting about the whole situation to me is that if you look at the first 6 games for the Panthers, if I had told you going into the bye week that the Panthers were 4-2, I think that's about where we would have sort of expected them to be in the preseason. At least that was sort of where I expected them to be. I mean, I sort of chalked up losses to the Rams and to the Texans. Turns out they were losses to the Rams and the Bucs instead. But going into the bye, I think that 4-2 was a very reasonable point. And I will say this. I will sell on the Panthers as a playoff team, except if a healthy Cam Newton does end up returning to the field. Because I think with a healthy Cam Newton, the offense that has been built around him, with Christian McCaffrey, who I think is a legitimate MVP candidate, with these two receivers, with Greg Olsen, with an offensive line that is going to get back Greg Little at some point, knock on wood, fingers crossed, whatever sort of superstition you believe in. I think that group is good enough to potentially go into Indy on the road and steal a game. I think that's a team that even against the Saints at home could potentially steal a game. I think the NFC is incredibly stacked. I think the odds are stacked against the Panthers. But with a fully healthy Cam Newton, I think it's just way too early to say that the Panthers will not make it.
All right, fellas, good job on first and second down. We're going to move it into third down, and you guys are my Halloween guinea pigs. We're going to have some fun with this one. We usually do over-under on this one, but it's Halloween. We got to break out the costume. So I'm going to name a player. You tell me the most fitting and suitable Halloween costume for that Panthers individual. I will start with Kyle Allen, and I'm going to put him in a Cinderella costume. Carriage is turning back into a pumpkin soon for Kyle. We just don't know when. It seemed to start to happen against San Francisco. Brandon, we'll go back to you. What's Kyle Allen's costume?
I'm going to go with, and this is a very elaborate costume, I'm going to go with the guy from Ratatouille. Because I think that very
we're all just like, wait, what?
Wait, which guy from Ratatouille?
The guy, not the rat. The guy.
There's okay.
Yeah.
The guy is controlling.
Oh, okay.
I think that Kyle Allen, very much like our protagonist, was left for dead. And I think that with a lot of help and prodding, I think that he has been put in a situation where he can succeed. But left on his own, I still don't believe in him. But he's turned out some pretty delicious games the past few weeks.
Wow, this has been almost like a movie review, Brendan. Thank you. Nick Wilson, Kyle's costume for Halloween.
He would be Woody from Toy Story. Dependable, trustworthy. But Cam Newton is Buzz Lightyear, and everybody wants to play with Buzz Lightyear, not Woody.
All right, we need a healthy Buzz Lightyear coming back, right? Antoine, what do we got for Kyle Allen?
I was going to say, what about Robin? I think Robin, obviously Cam Newton has been Superman, so I guess you could go. I think Robin is more
these superhero
like
movies, they blend together.
Yeah, it's like
Robin needs to make a comeback.
He does.
Yeah, where's the Robin movie?
We didn't get a We got a Joker movie now, an origin story, which made everybody mad. We've gotten every 5 years we have a new Batman origin story. Let's show some respect to Robin, everybody.
All right, hey, we got our first comment. We got our first comment in 5 minutes. It just says Carolina gonna lose. So we're really setting up the optimism here. Thanks, Kevin. All right, next costume, Christian McCaffrey. I'll go with the obvious, Bruce Lee. And here's a quote: "In the middle of chaos lies opportunity." We just hope for the Panthers it isn't a missed opportunity this week. So Christian McCaffrey, Bruce Lee. Nick Wilson, what do you got for CMC?
All right, I know this is going to upset another Carolina Panther on the team. It's Spider-Man, right? Not the biggest superhero in the world, but he is stealthy. He has skills that nobody else has, and he is a heck of a lot more well-rounded than, again, everybody knows him as this all-purpose back guy who can do everything, but he even surprises you with how many different things he can do within a game, even though you know that watching it.
Brendan, Christian McCaffrey.
I go with a different superhero. I'm going to go with the Hulk. I think that, relatively, normal-looking guy, average guy during the week, sort of soft-spoken, keeps to himself, does his own thing. Come Sunday, kaboom! I mean, he blows up. He turns into a monster, and in the best possible way for the Panthers. But from a guy that we talk to every week in the locker room, who is relatively about his own business, come Sundays he turns into a whole different beast.
Antoine. Yeah, here's the thing.
Oh, Nick,
wait,
okay.
Real quick. Yeah, here's the thing. The Hulk ain't landing Olivia Culpo.
Hey, you don't doubt Bruce Banner. He don't say that about him. He absolutely could. Girls like smart guys. At least that's what I've been taught to believe.
Antoine, what do you got for CMC?
I got the Flash. Barry Allen is one of those guys that not strong guy, just kind of normal guy throughout the week, as kind of like some of the other guys have said. But yeah, he's super fast. I think he seems like he's gotten even faster since he's gotten into the league. I don't know if it's because of the hard work he does in the off season, but man, he's just has that blazing speed. So for me, I think it'd be the Flash.
All right, next up for our 4-down territory cosplay, Ron Rivera. I'll give him Rocky. The guy just gets knocked down and gets back up every time. He's just been slugged to the mat by the San Francisco 49ers. November and December is rounds, 8 and 9 for Rocky Ron Rivera. He gets up at least one more time, but does he win the match? I don't know. Brendan.
Ron is a tricky one because he's the kind of guy he's unassuming. And, I hate to stick with this whole superhero theme, but I hate to steal from Nick, but I think he's more of a Peter Parker, not a Spider-Man. I think he's just a regular Peter Parker. I think he's a guy who is consistently taken for granted. He's a guy that isn't fully appreciated. He's a guy who probably doesn't get the due that he deserves, and yet he just keeps going. He does his job, and he doesn't ask for any sort of praise for it. I think that, Ron is one of those sort of guys who if you don't want to give him the attention, you don't have to. Just like Peter Barker, he can easily fade into the background when you look at the whole nexus of this team.
All right, Nick, what you got?
All right, this one might not make a lot of sense to anyone. I'm going to go with Dumbledore. Wise, very learned in his field of knowledge.
You're backing it up.
And also he says things sometimes, and I don't know what the hell he's talking about, which is more than I don't know if I just cursed there. Sorry, my bad. But again, I'll say this: like Ron doesn't necessarily speak in circles, but he definitely speaks in circles. I just gave you a Ron.
Time
Rivera
is a flat
answer,
circle. Antoine, what do you got for Coach?
For me, it's not necessarily a person, but kind of a character. For me, it'd be like a 1950s cowboy. And the reason I say that is because when he talks, he doesn't talk much. He's a cool guy, very smooth. But when he does talk, everybody listens to what he has.
He's John Wayne.
Exactly.
You got John Wayne. You're going John Wayne.
Exactly.
I like it.
So I feel like, that would fit him. Dressing up as a cowboy would fit Ron Rivera perfectly.
All right, last one. We got to go defense. Luke Kuechly. He's a CIA spy. He always knows what you're doing. He's on your every move. Despite last week's performance, the guy just knows everything out there. Nick.
Easiest one. He's Thanos.
Okay.
He is inevitable. It takes an army of superheroes to beat him, including the super intellect of Kyle Shanahan. And again, he is inevitable.
Brendan.
He's a robot. I mean, this is the easiest one by far. I mean, he is just programmed to do what he does every single week. He's programmed to go out and get 12 tackles and an interception and to make a crucial drive-killing play. I mean, that's just what he does. It's programmed in his DNA. And, if you translate this over to the media side of things, sometimes you're going to get that steely clinical response from him, just like you would from a cyborg.
Hey, he is a robot. And in fact, the only reason Luke isn't watching 4 Down Territory tonight, I'm told, is because he is watching more film of Ryan Tannehill and the Tennessee Titans. So we got to give it to him.
When we say robot, is he like R2-D2? Is he like the robot from iRobot?
Is he the
Which
Terminator?
robot is he?
Could be the Terminator.
I was thinking the Terminator.
I think he's too nice a guy for that.
All right, Antoine, do we get to you on this one?
No, I was just going to say
What
Batman.
Yeah,
Batman. All right.
Yeah, Batman for me. Yeah, I just feel like he can beat you in so many different ways with his gadgets and the things that he does. So I just think it's easy. It's probably the easiest one for me, Batman.
All right, here we are at 4th down. This one's easy. Headlines. I feel like Brendan Marks has a clear advantage here. Working for
So
the
does that
Charlotte
mean you're going to
Observer.
let me go last? Let me go last.
Yeah, we'll go with you last. You haven't thought of it, have you? Doing your homework at the beginning of class, aren't you, Brendan? Yeah, you'll learn. All right.
Slacker.
This is your wittiest, silliest, funniest, punniest headline that will appear in Monday's paper or on athlonsports.com or on fnz.com or on wcnc.com on Monday after the Panthers play the Titans. Nick, what do you got?
Thank God they don't pay me to do this, but we'll start with Panthers defense exposes Titans mortality. Carolina wins 20-13.
Because the Titan is a god, immortal, mortality.
A little more heady than you expected.
No, that was
right?
good. Yeah, I was I wasn't even sure we are going to get to you. I'm glad we let off with you on this one.
You thought I was going low rent, didn't you? How dare you?
Antoine, what do you got? I'm in trouble.
For me, it's not really. I'm not really winning any awards with this, but I was just going to say Panthers prevail over Titans and send Ryan Tannehill back to the bench.
Ooh, Mariota time again. Are they going there? You think? It'd have to be pretty bad.
It might. If it gets pretty bad, possibly. Yeah.
All right, I'll give you mine while Brendan still thinks of his homework.
I'm good. I'm ready.
It can wait. Allen tames Titans. Sub-headline.
That's a good one.
I like
we
that
don't
one.
need
That's
Cam
a good
yet.
one.
Brendan, go
Yes.
ahead.
I'm going to go with sinking the Titansic. You told me to go for the puns. That's the
I'm
sort of
clipping that and sending it to your copy desk. You will never,
please do.
ever be able to write a headline for the Charlotte Observer.
You could only do that if we still had a copy desk. But, yeah.
Shots fired!
That is inside baseball right there.
What if we did sinking the Titanic Hill?
Oh,
Oh, that's good too.
so
that's a
collective
good one.
headline.
That's a good
I
one.
think Nick's got the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
right.
the winner right there.
But
I'll take
Brendan,
the assist on that. Yeah.
Radio guys will always try and one up you. I'm sorry about that. It's just in our blood.
It's okay. I'm happy with not having the last word, as
All
I
right.
get it.
All right, Brendan Marks, Nick Wilson, Antoine Staley, you all win awards for being on 4 Down Territory. Thank you at home for chiming in, even to tell us that the Panthers are going to lose. Thankfully, you didn't tell us about all the audio issues this week because we didn't have any. So good job, everybody. We got through 30 minutes with no audio issues, and great show. We will be back next Thursday as the Panthers take on the Green Bay Packers in the supposedly what's going to be the frozen tundra, if you believe everybody's weather report here. Thanks, guys.
Anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Sweet.
Are we good?